Good evening, everybody. It is 6 p.m. on Tuesday, April 28th, 2026, and we'll call this session of West End Regional Municipality Council to order. We do note, Clerk Snare, we do have quorum, and so the meeting will proceed. We do have regrets from Councillor Paul Morton this evening and Deputy Mayor Francis and Councillors Remy. Councillors Bob Morton and Leary Pinch are running about 5 to 10 minutes late. We are in Mi'kmaq, folks, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people, and these lands are governed by the treaties of peace and friendship signed in 1726. We're all treated people and have responsibilities to each other in this land. West Hampton Regional Municipality also recognizes African Nova Scotians are distinct peoples whose histories, legacies, and contributions have enriched that part of Mi'kmaq known as Nova Scotia for over 400 years. Any announcements tonight, Council? Councillor Scott McLean.
Thank you, Mayor. There's a Belmont Hall breakfast this Saturday, May 2nd at the Belmont Hall.
Perfect. Carrie and crew always do a great one. So go to the Belmont Hall this Saturday. Councillor Whedon, breakfast as well.
Yeah, well, not breakfast. We can go to breakfast in Belmont on Saturday, but Sunday afternoon we have the Eller's House pre-Mother's Day tea party. 1:30 to 3:30, sandwiches, snacks, and as always, a goodwill offering.
That's right. Miss Wilson was telling me that today. Councillor McLean, anything else?
Nope.
Oh, no. Okay. Councillor Smith, John.
Yeah, I'd like to congratulate Will Shear and the Halifax McDonald's on bringing home the silver from the TELUS Cup Hockey Championships this past weekend in Peterborough, Ontario.
Nice. Great job. All right. Seeing no more lights, the agenda was circulated earlier to everybody. If there's any additions or deletions, we can take those now. If not, will be approved as circulated. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Any declarations of conflict of interest this evening? None? Perfect. Quiet bunch tonight. Our previous meeting minutes from March 24, 2026, our council minutes, March 4, 2026, public hearing minutes, rezoning 439 Clifton Avenue, Windsor, PID 45049921, and April 14, 2026, special council budget minutes. Those were circulated as well within each package. If there are anything or corrections to note, we will do them now. If not, they'll be approved as circulated. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. We have no public hearings tonight and therefore no second readings. Unfinished business. Next on the agenda, we have the capital report as of December 31st, 2025. Director Rochon. With your metallic green computing device.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship. So the report was circulated within your package. This is as of December 31st, 2025. So based on what we've seen here, we're about 32.3% of the expected budget has been spent at December 31st. This is up 15.5% from September, or 7.1 million. 20.8% are complete, 38.3% are started, and 6.7% are carry forwards at this point, and then 34.2% haven't been started.
Perfect.
If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you so much. Any specific area, council that you have questions on, or a specific project, or Councillor Ivey?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Zabi, and through you to the director.
Absolutely.
So we get this quarterly, which is appreciated. It gives us an idea of where we're at. We don't often talk about it, and it comes in, and I don't think we've talked about it much in the time that you've been doing it. So there's some in here that I'll just ask about, and they maybe have come up previously, Director Rochon, but I'll go to the last page as a starting point and work my way backward. It's just because I have the sheet folded over, so I'm going to go there. We have the sluice gate in there with an upgrade, and we've got no budget allocated in 25-26. But we have a project total to date. And I'm just curious, is that an oversight, or is that something that's happened there that it just stands out because it's a 1.3 million to date and no budget allocated in the 25-26?
Yep. So that was a project that was related to the Mill Lake. So it's 1.2 in the previous and it's 37 this year. So some of the carryover associated to that, and it's at 1.3 right now.
Gotcha, but there is no budget in the budget column allocated for 25, 26. Is there a reason for that?
No, there's no budget because there wasn't any budget at the approval, but there's still some carryover costs from what was approved by council motion.
Okay. So that's carryover when it's showing in the prior year. We're safe to assume that. Is that correct?
That was the prior year expenses that were within the budget last year, and then the 37 is what's been spent this year.
Okay. So I don't know by looking at that if we're on budget, if we're over or we're under, just if, do you understand why I don't understand that?
Yep. So I'm only showing you what's in the 25-26 budget, but there was some carryover costs within the 37 of $37,804. And that could just be some of the last minute year end kind of related stuff that crosses over. So, and it was part of the original approval. So if you just give me 1 second, I can open up last year's.
Okay. And I'm not questioning the authorization of it, just so you understand, it's that when I look at that and I see no budget allocated, but some substantial numbers is being spent, I don't know what we're judging it up against, if it's purely on the spend for the year or if it's on the total project. That's
Yeah.
where I'm trying to.
So the budget column should match what you guys see within your capital budget for 25-26. So anything that's been added, like for instance, the Make It Rain project, won't have a budget associated to it. So that's why you won't see that budget there.
Okay, thank you. And then the one other question I'll ask is just in going down, I'll just do them as a collective group, but some of the percentages don't line up with what we see for the 25-26 budget expensed, and that's being done as a percentage of, I believe, the total budget.
So what it's
Is-
percentage of is the December 31st, 2025 divided by the total budget for 2025.
So it's just the year's
Yeah,
number. It's not-
Exactly.
So project that span multiple years,
Exactly.
the percentages will not apply because we're not going to see necessarily when they were first put in. Is that correct?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. I think that's it for me. And the likes of that, like, I guess an example of that would have been the planning project on the consolidation of the documents.
Yep.
I think that's one that's in here that shows to be significantly over budget, but we're not seeing it because it's,
Because there was a previous year amount that was built
Split
in.
carry.
Exactly.
thank you.
Councillor Yanish.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. To Director Roshan, the 32% doesn't seem like a very high amount, as particularly since that, comes after all the good weather. And so now we have 3 more months where there would be more expenses accumulating. Any idea where we might be at the end of the fiscal year in terms of percent completion?
Not yet, but I do know that when we went over our capital budgeting, there was a lot of carryovers that were in there, significant projects relating to the water utility of like almost 8 million. So that is a big significant portion that's now being carried over, and that's related to the interconnect study, the third process train, and the carryover for the water tank, as well as the Mills Lake. So all of those are carryover projects, about 8.8 million. So that's going to be, again, carried over from the 45. So there's a significant number of carryovers. I can just pull that up for you here. I believe just give me 1 second. Thank you for your patience. So within the budget that we have there, we had 16.7 million in carryover costs. So, and a lot of the construction, even though we're seeing it in our slower months between January, a lot of that's when we're doing like the final progress reports and the holdback usually are released during that time. So we will see some growth in that area. And like I said, we've seen about 16.7 million in carryover. So I'm just going to do a quick math here for you. If I can get out of this formula. Thank you. Oh my God. Thank you. Okay. So that represents about 36% of the budget that we're carrying over. So we're at about 32.3. So we'd be looking at about 64 probably at the year by year end. Yeah.
Through you, your worship, the only concern I have is I don't know how we compare to other municipalities, but it would seem, begs the question whether or not we're trying to budget, trying to plan too many projects at once, and we're budgeting too high, and whether or not there are some costs to that, and there's maybe some disadvantages to, to the residents when we're budgeting like that. So I think we need to keep it's been brought up before, but I think we need to keep a closer eye on that. And I happened to see some figures from the town of Truro, and they have a budget of very similar to ours, 43 million, and their capital budget was 10 million. And so and I don't know exactly how, what's included and what might not be included, but it's quite a difference. Mm. And I think we need to be mindful of that as we're going forward and for future budgets.
Perfect. Thank you. Councillor Smith, you had your light on earlier. John, you were good. Councillor Ivy.
Yeah, I just wanted to peel back one layer on that 16 million being carried over through you, Mayor Zabi, and to Director Rashawn. That 16 is in the 19 already, or is that 16 that would be in addition to the 19 that you referenced being carried over?
So the carryover would be into 26, 27. So it's not represented in these numbers on this report. So it was represented within the capital budgeting deliberations. So the 16.7% is, or the 16.7 million is what's being carried over into 26, 27.
Thank you. I was making a note and I thought you were saying we'd already carried 16.7 into. So the only follow-up comment I'll make on that is I agree with Councillor Yanish's comments on the budget side of things. And I think we talked about this during budget as well. And so when we look at what's there for as of December or the project to date, it's between 14 and 19. And that was the number that I kind of saw as being, when we go over $20 million, we're not getting everything done. And I can't line that up with staffing, which I'd leave to staff to sort that piece out. But if we're hitting a stop point or we can't get past 20 million, and I was thinking that it was all big projects or that it was all little ones, that those in combination, but it doesn't matter. This is a real mix of projects that we've got here, big and small. And it just kind of goes to that $20 million number that we can budget for 40 or 50. We're not going to get 40 or 50 done. We don't have the staffing by way of volume to do it. And so if we want to do that, that's a different conversation for us, I think, to your comment, Councillor Yanish, I would say. The one other thing I want to add to this is that when this was first put forward, it's a shame we hadn't delved into it. I think we delved into it tonight more than we have before. And it hasn't been a lot, but is that I think the objective was to see where we stood with projects from a budget standpoint, period. So in other words, when they first came through with the RFP and we approved it for the first time, and that it carried over was fine. We understand the way workflow takes place, but we don't know where we stand here with what we approved in the budget, what the RFP came in for, and where we're at. And that was the intent of this when it was first put out. We had no sense, and we don't now. So I don't know what's involved to get that extra column.
So on budget, over budget, under budget, et
Don't
cetera, et
want to
cetera.
create a major,
Yep.
but that's, if I would ask if you can think about that.
Maybe it's like a variance in the cost to original RFP or something like that.
How are we
like a
doing,
line.
right?
Yeah, just to
Like,
give
are
a
we-
give an idea of where you
Yeah,
where it's
we
at,
don't
yeah.
know when projects go over,
absolutely.
especially when they go over across years. We can't track.
All right, all great comments, folks. I'm not seeing any more lights, so thank you, Director Rashawn. All right, Accessibility Advisory Committee excerpt, West Hampton Regional Municipality Report, Writing Guidelines through an Accessibility and DEI Lens Recommendation Report. We have Chair Bourgeois here tonight from that committee. If you want to come on up, Michelle, and you know the routine.
It's a trick, trust me.
Well, hello, and thank you for the opportunity to address you. As Mayor Zabian said, my name is Michelle Bourgeois. I'm the chair of the Accessibility Advisory Committee. One of the things that we've worked on a little bit, if you recall, we submitted our work plan for consideration some time ago with some targets that we wanted to try to hit. And I won't get into detail because it's another meeting altogether, but we are really making some great progress on those items. Got to call out great support of staff on our committee. They've really stepped up to the plate beyond the 9 to 5 to get some of those things done. So I'll probably be back at another meeting with some details about that stuff, but there's some really good work going on there. To the matter at hand, one of the things we wanted to talk about that we had committed to in the original strategy was trying to embed equity, diversity, anti-racism, and accessibility into what the municipality does. So to that end, the West Hants Equity, Anti-Racism, Accessibility Strategy commits the municipality to embedding those features into our decision making, basically every aspect of what we do. I'm not suggesting we don't do it informally now, but there's always an advantage to making that more formalized, documented, transparent process. So to support that commitment, the staff reports that would be submitted to council should include a consideration of diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. We'll abbreviate that to DEIA. DEIA can help report authors and collaborators inform the direction of the municipal services, programs, and projects with a clearer focus on meeting the needs of the underrepresented groups. Now, typically, and it's not an exhaustive list, but underrepresented communities tend to African Nova Scotian communities, Indigenous communities, including Glooscap First Nation, persons with disabilities, 2SLGBTQIA plus communities, gender diverse persons and women, Francophones and Acadians, youths and seniors, and newcomers and immigrant. I'm sure there's more that could be on that list, but that's what I came up with. So the purpose of what we're suggesting is some staff report guidance. So the guidance would support the implementation of the Equity and Anti-Racism Accessibility Plan. And some of those actions that we had committed to in that plan were including diversity and inclusion considerations in report templates, introducing accessibility impact considerations in staff reports, embedding environmental equity considerations in municipal decision-making, and integrating equity and inclusion into broader municipal decision processes. So one of the things that I did when I reached out to different municipalities, some of my former colleagues at HRM and whatnot, and they started down the path of making an accessibility section, a diversity section, and they found that to be very cumbersome. So we sort of took the model from them and said, we're going to back that off and sort of loop it into one consideration. Otherwise, it becomes quite an administrative burden. So the intent is to support a consistent and practical application of that DEIA lens. The goal is to ensure that our decisions recognize and reduce systemic barriers, consider environmental equity and environmental racism where it's relevant, improve accessibility across physical, digital, communication, and service environments, support meaningful inclusion of underrepresented and equity-deserving communities. And this is in bold font because this is the elephant that's in the room whenever these considerations are done. The lens is to be applied proportionally. You don't use the sledgehammer on the mosquito in every instance. Where appropriate, the lens takes a finer look. There's administrative tasks that obviously aren't intended to be burdened with that. So what can these guidelines do for us? They can improve municipal services and programs to ensure the inclusion of everyone's needs when preparing information for council decisions. So that's basically as close to the root of the genesis of an idea is when the report comes to council. So if we can start embedding those processes into there, it produces a summary of DEIA considerations in the discussion section of the report for the benefit of the report readers, including council and members of the public ultimately. It creates a positive and respectful work and community environment by ensuring there's a process in place to amplify those voices. It can create a workforce and services representative of the community by taking the needs of all residents into consideration. It recognizes and addresses the systemic barriers and inequalities people face by ensuring this is addressed in staff reports. And it acknowledges the diversity around the community and consciously seek to incorporate diverse perspectives into municipal work. So in the report, you would basically have a diversity, equity, inclusion consideration, similar as to have financial implications or whatever else you may have. And ideally, this section would summarize whether the proposed decision may have disproportionate impacts on underrepresented or equity-deserving communities, any accessibility implications, physical, digital, communication, or service accessibility, any relevant environmental equity or environmental racism considerations, any engagement undertaken with impacted communities, any mitigation members incorporated, or simply a statement that no material DEIA impacts were identified. This section should be concise, clear, and transparent. You're not looking to write a book about, it's not about getting your word count up. If it warrants a big discussion, you put a discussion. If it doesn't, you simply say there were no factors identified, and that would be sufficient. So again, in bold, not every one of these following prompts will apply to every report. So our vision is not that somebody has an exhaustive list of binder that everything they write, they look. That once it's embedded in the process, basically what we envision it is we formalize what we essentially do now. This isn't to imply that these considerations are being applied by staff now, but I think with a template and a policy, it provides that clarity and consistency and transparency. So the following questions would be what we suggest that you could ask to guide the analysis and development. Impact and equity, who benefits, who may experience negative or unintended impacts, are the impacts disproportionate? Does this decision reduce or create barriers to participation, services, or infrastructure? And where relevant, does this consideration intersect with environmental equity or environmental racism considerations? Accessibility. Accessibility must remain explicit and visible in the decision-making. You consider, does physical accessibility of spaces and infrastructure, digital accessibility of platforms and online materials, communication accessibility, including plain language and alternative formats, and accessibility of services, including affordable transportation and participation barriers. Engagement and representation, basically you would say, were impacted communities informed or consulted where appropriate? Were engagement approaches inclusive and accessible, and our lived experience reflected in the analysis where relevant? Meaningful engagement strengthens decision-making and builds trust. I think we'd all agree on that. So, and then you'd obviously have the financial and risk considerations. Are there resource implications related to improving accessibility or inclusion, whatever the specific case is? Could the decision create unintended adverse impacts that we may not have considered? And does the recommendation build capacity or advance equitable outcomes? So ultimately, who are they for? They're for everyone, including council, municipal staff, particularly those who, I realize all municipal staff don't write reports, but I think a lot of, in my experience, there's a lot of team that one person on that team may write a report with the collaboration of a lot of people who may not be authored on the report. And then ultimately community members as the end consumer of what it is that we all do here, they would benefit from those guidelines. So back to that proportional application. Routine or administrative reports really typically could conclude that there are no material impacts were identified. Simple administrative tasks that require a council report. We're not saying that you should go for public consultation about whether you buy a Kubota tractor or a Coyote tractor or those kind of things. That said, Major infrastructure, policy, land use, funding, or program decisions may require that deeper analysis. And the intent is never to create an administrative burden, but to embed the equitable and accessible thinking into a municipal practice in a sustainable way. So the outcomes, this is basically, I just put together what theoretically it could look like is, under these things, staff reviewed the proposed recommendation through the diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility lens, and the proposal incorporates meets accessibility standards, physical access, plain language communication, and digital materials will be available. Simple answer. Equity and impact, no disproportionate impacts on underrepresented or equity deserving communities were identified, or if they were, the proposal may impact, insert specific group here, mitigation measures, insert brief description. Same thing with environmental equity. There is nothing identified, but at least by putting it in the report, you've shown to anybody looking at that report, we have considered it. We've considered it in a consistent, transparent, documented way. And engagement. How did we engage with people? What did we do? And just confirm that efforts were made to ensure inclusive and accessible participation. And staff would just continue to monitor implementation as they do now to ensure accessibility and equity considerations continue to be addressed as any other items in a report would be. So, and for strictly administrative reports, basically, I envision an answer something like this, very much a one-line: staff reviewed this administrative matter and no DEIA impacts were identified. That still shows that the consideration was given, but it doesn't require an exhaustive justification of why not. So in summary, what I think this could benefit, we would get improved decision-making we consider diverse perspectives, make better informed decisions, and the needs of the broader cross-section of the community could be reflected. There's a potential to reduce legal liability by having clear policies, written down, documented policies. If anything ever arises and you don't have a policy, you don't really have a whole lot of legs to stand on if it's they should have, could have, would have known to do that. So a policy helps, and it can reduce the risk of discrimination claims, increase community trust. Using inclusive language, the application of that equity lens builds trust. This is particularly important with historically marginalized groups. And improve service delivery. When diverse needs are considered, the resulting decisions are more effective. And I guess I'd close up with that the roles of the Accessibility Advisory Committee and the Diverse, Equitable, and Inclusive Communities Committee, which we ran this by that committee. They were not quite up to, they didn't have full staffing, if you will, but the members that were there did have a look at it, and they're aware of what it is, and they didn't really have a whole lot of things to add to it. But what we wanted to make sure is that we don't feel that it's the committee's job to write policy. We're not intending to write policy here. What we're suggesting is here's a background that staff, knowing the nuances of what they do because they are the subject matter experts, could take this information and draft a policy, an appropriate policy. But certainly, although it looks like it's detailed, it's certainly not intended to be take this and make this the policy. This is sort of just a foundational information piece that staff could use as guidelines. And if the decision was made to go forward with creating a policy, certainly the committees could collaborate and assist if required. But ultimately, we do realize that policy is created by staff. Any questions on that?
Thank you, Chair Bourgeois. Questions, Council? Councilor Ivey.
Not a question, but just a comment that I think it's a wonderful initiative that you've undertaken in bringing this forward. It is so easy for those of us that can sit around this table and in the way that we can and not be impacted by some of what you described by accessible, equitable, and inclusive in that report and things that we may not think of on a regular basis. It just happens because you get, I don't want to say you get the blinders on, but as much as you're looking to think outside about, impacts on other folks, it just to have those notes, I think is a really positive, good thing. And however that comes down the line. So to you and your committee and those you consulted, I really think this is a very positive step to ensuring that we get this at the front end, especially as we look at projects, initiatives, or other policy that we deal with. So Michael, thank you to you and your folks for that.
Thank you.
Councilor Leary Pinch.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, to CAO Phillips. I presume, because I know you do with all of the reports, that you kind of had a look at this and that generalized chatting occurred with staff and that we feel comfy that staff are able to implement this into reports. I think it's a great idea and I would love to have the information. I just kind of wanted to make sure that staff felt that this is something they could deliver on.
Yeah, to answer the question, yes, I believe we can. I mean, a starting point would be the meeting committee procedural policy where we have an actual report there as a recommended framework, so we can look to amend that. We have also, for the benefit of council, we have in that section the decision-making wheel. That could be an added component or it could be a better definition within one of the existing categories. And as the chair Bourgeois says, it's also, it's more pertinent to some, a pickup truck versus a playground or a municipal facility retrofit or a public policy. Think about it in the planning realm where, you're asked to make decisions and so forth. So, and I also would finish by saying, I think this is also not just a staff component. I think and I did review his, we call it policy, what you call it, framework. The framework, for council's benefit when you're making decisions outside of staff's recommendations, that you look through your decisions through that lens as well. So yes, I think we can deliver. That's probably where we would start, existing policy.
Perfect. That's wonderful. Just because that was what I really was wrestling with bringing this forward. Is I didn't want to. I appreciate, as former staff myself, I appreciate that staff can be overburdened, and I really didn't want to present this as something that. So I'm really comfortable, and I think our committee is letting staff take the lead on this. And if there's a support role that our committee can play, all the better. But certainly staff knows what staff's capacity is, and staff certainly can manage that. So that's great that they're willing to do that.
Anybody else? I know I usually think of this as part of my decision-making process as well, but having it as part of a report as well would just give, if one of us kind of overlooks something, it gives that extra backup, I guess, to, maybe I didn't think of that part. So I think it's a good thing as well. But thank you, Chair Bourgeois. There is a recommendation in that report, council. If council wishes to entertain that, we can take that now and see where it goes. Councillor Leary Pinch.
That council directs the CAO to engage staff in the development, documentation, and implementation of report writing guidelines.
Moved by Councillor Leary Pinch.
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Paul Whedon, that council direct CIO to engage staff in the development, documentation, and implementation of report writing guidelines. Seeing no more further lights, we will put that to a vote. Motion's passed. Thank you very much. Have a good evening, Michelle. All right, next on the agenda is the mayor's report. Council, I'm just going to clump it into the next meeting as well, into 2 months worth. I didn't finish that report, and I won't throw something at you that's not complete at this point. So to be expanded upon next month. Next on the agenda is Committee of Council excerpts from the 14th of April, 2026. 2026 citizen member appointment to the Accessibility Advisory Committee. Councillor Whedon.
Thank you, Mayor. The recommendation motion was that Committee of the Whole recommends council approves Jamie Patterson be appointed to the Accessibility Advisory Committee for the term April 28th, 2026 to April 30th, 2028.
Moved by Councillor Whedon, seconded by Councillor Leary Pinch. Discussion on the motion. All right, we'll put that to a vote. Motion is passed. Thank you very much. 2026 Provincial Representative Volunteer.
The recommended motion was that Committee of the Whole recommends council approves the nomination of Roger Taylor for the 2026 Provincial Representative Volunteer Award for the West Hants Regional Municipality.
Moved by Councillor Whedon, seconded by Councillor Leary Pinch. Discussion, council. All right, we'll put that for a vote. Motion is passed. Thank you very much. Coordinated Regional Homelessness Engagement Model, Councillor Whedon.
The recommended motion was that Committee of the Whole recommends council appoint a councillor liaison to participate in the West Hants Housing Coalition or any future coordinated homelessness engagement table for the purpose of supporting communication between the group and council.
Moved by Councillor Whedon, seconded by Councillor Leary Pinch. Discussion on that motion. We'll put that to a vote. Yeah, motion is passed. So we'll bring that one back at the next council meeting to choose that person. We have 3 members of council not here tonight, so I'm not sure if one of them may want to have their name put forward and they can't accept the nomination without being here. So Clerk Sneer, if we can just add that for the next one, and that makes it fair to all. All right, next one, employee pension plan. Councillor Whedon.
Recommended motion was Committee of the Whole recommends council direct staff to explore amending the existing pension policy for employees of the West Hants Regional Municipality to establish a flexible employee pension contribution rate within a range of no less than 5% and no greater than 9% of eligible earnings, permit employees to select the preferred contribution rate within this range, and report back to council with the necessary policy amendments and administrative process for implementation.
Moved by Councillor Whedon, seconded by Councillor Leary Pinch. Discussion. All right, we'll put that for a vote. Motion's passed. Thank you very much, everybody. Camp Strip AMR water meter pilot program. You say that 10 times in a row. Councillor Whedon.
We'll give it a whirl. The recommended motion was Committee of the Whole recommends council direct staff to proceed with the CAMSTRUP pilot program to evaluate their ultrasonic water meters and explore industry-leading automated meter reading technology with integrated acoustic leak detection to reduce non-revenue water and optimize operational efficiency, and approve the expenditure of $91,500 plus applicable taxes as indicated in this report as pilot program package number 2.
Moved by Councillor Whedon, seconded by Councillor Leary Pinch. Discussion on that motion.
Yes.
Councillor Ivy.
Thank you, Chair. If I might, I know we've got the motion right, but I might see if I can rely on
Yep.
project engineer Boder. I don't know how deeply you're involved in this.
If we can get you to come up to the front there, Manager Boder, and maybe you can answer some questions. Councillor Ivy.
Thank you, Chair. So just a couple of questions, Tim. I think, I'm fairly supportive of this as from the previous meeting and even the staff person, because I think we've got a big issue with lost water. But my sense on this, we were first going through it, is primarily a residential vehicle to get them installed in residential properties. And is that the case, or are these better suited inside a bulk meter going down the distribution line? Can you educate me on that? Given that the volume of water we see disappearing from the bulk meters after they get into the system, can you expand upon that?
So my understanding is that they would be more along the residential and also commercial meters, but not necessarily the bulk stations.
Got it. Do we have anything identified with this? We just did that operational review. Anything come up on us looking for this lost water within that study?
I actually have to admit I don't know the details for that.
Yeah, maybe if I could go back to first question just quickly.
Sure.
My
Yep.
understanding as well that it's not, I don't know the range, but I don't know that the detection is isolated to the lateral, we'll say. So if we have enough residential replacements within a certain area, that it in itself will identify this area, this main generally, that the acoustic ability goes beyond the lateral. Now, whether it goes 100 meters or a kilometer, I don't know that. So as far as an indicator, I think there will be some benefit outside of the bulk meters. Because I think your rationale is let's replace the bulk meters because that's where the majority of the water is perceived to be lost. But I think we also know that it's a nickel and dime approach as well, that laterals and even mains will provide some benefit in detection and replacement, because it is those slow leaks that do accumulate versus the bulk. So that's the first part. Now, with respect to the MNP, I don't recall exactly, but I think we just holistically know that water loss is a significant part of any water utility. And that this is a strategy we're trying to put in place to try to combat that based on technology. But
Absolutely. Just wanting to understand the extent and the nature of this, given, again, the volume of water that we know that we lose on a regular basis, and it's way too much. So thank you for that. I appreciate that for sure. The laterals, in fact, the bulk would perhaps be the largest portion, but the laterals definitely contribute to that as well as other within the context of lost water within the system. So thanks.
Councillor Leary Pinch.
Might be helpful. I happen to just go to their website and look. So it says that with relative accuracy, they can detect leaks up to 50 meters from the the meter, sorry, reading off the thing, but that they also detect leaks in the main distribution pipes because the sound can travel through back into the 50 meters for which they detect.
Further questions? All right, seeing none. All right, so we'll put that to a vote. Thank you, Manager Browder. Motion is passed. Thank you very much, everybody. All right, next on the agenda is Councillor Municipal Activity Reports. We appreciate Councillor Whedon, consistent as always. It's nice to get those and go through it. We get to read in what's going on in each district, and people enjoy them. So we appreciate that. Police advisory report as well. Chair Morton, it was well done. Again, reports are nice for us to understand what goes on all committees as well. New business, BFD Rescue 11 replacement recommendation report. Director Rochon.
Thank you, Your Worship. The report has been circulated in your package. I'll highlight a couple of the quick items within here. So within January 26, 2026, we had an incident with our fire apparatus for Brooklyn Station 1 with Rescue 11, which I'll refer to it as. So it has been deemed by the insurer as a total loss as a result of that accident. And after the deductible and the removal of any rebated portion of HST, the insurance amount that we will receive is $104,000. With the pricing of the new vehicle, and as well as getting the labor associated to putting on all of the items that are being taken off of the old vehicle and then getting it wrapped. It is a little bit more than what the insurance proceeds will have to cover. So we're asking for a contingency to be funded through the municipal fire reserve so that we can have a little capacity in case there's additional costs of getting the lights, horns, and the wrapping all back in place, as well as the cap. We're asking for an additional $25,000 in contingency, and the maximum for the total project would be $130,000.
Are there questions to Director Rochon? Council. Councillor Ivey.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So I just want to go to the source of funding here. As you know, through the budget process, I expressed my concern with the reserve process that we went through. But we didn't have anything in the most recent reserves that were presented to us with the fire equipment reserve in it. The last we saw it was for year-end 25 in the audited statements. Can you tell me what we have as a balance in that account, that we have the funds within that reserve to be able to pull the 25,000?
Yep, just one second. So that would have been part of our additional information that would have been given at the budget deliberations on the 8th of April. So I'm just going to open that up. There's been no additional items for this year, and it's been pretty with high level of predictability within that reserve. So I'll just open that up for you. So that reserve currently has 88,000 in it, and we contribute 125,000 a year. It's usually used for our smaller equipment related costs.
Right. So the previous year in 25, it was minus, prior to 25, it was minus 16. We put in 91,000 and change, and it took it to 72. And you're telling me that we put another, how much?
So the projected ending balance on March 31st, 2026 was 22,000. We have 59,000 coming out of it this year for various fire departments as we reviewed in the capital budget. And then we put in from our operating budget 125, and there is a projected year-end balance March 31st, 2027 of 88,157.
Okay, so my records didn't show we had the fire equipment reserve in this year's budget to be able to add anything to it. I'm not looking to be tricky about this. We didn't approve a budget. When I looked, I didn't see the fire equipment reserve in this year's budget. There was a number of them actually that weren't in there, which is a separate report I'll bring, but I didn't see the fire equipment reserve in this year's 26-27 budget. Am I mistaken?
Yeah, it was part of the supplemental information that was given to council on April 8th. And it would have been under operating reserves. It's a line item in there. And if you look at the transfers to and from reserves, you'll also see the 125,000 contribution to.
I don't have that. Could be a mistake. Maybe I've got the wrong. We exchanged a lot. So do you have the full reserve there?
Yep.
And I don't want to make a big issue of this, but so for the special reserve, I show that with a year-end balance altogether at 3,533,000.
Yep.
326. So where do you see the?
So you'd see the WHRM Fire Services Reserve under operating reserves. It's about 4 lines down in the operating section.
Right. So that's the fire services reserve.
Yep.
You're referencing the fire equipment reserve, which is a different reserve in your report.
It's the same reserve. Yeah.
It's not the way it's presented previously. I'm not going to make a big look. It's $25,000, but I'm just saying that it doesn't line up with what I've got. Sorry. And I apologize.
Councillor Whedon, you had your light on.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I just basically had the same question as Councillor Ivy about how much we had in the reserve, but it brought me to another question to Director Rashawn through you, Mayor. What do we do with the old truck? I mean, we've gotten the write-off from the insurance. Do we get to keep that truck and try to do something with it? Does the insurance take it?
Yeah, the
Lights,
insurance.
decals, everything's gone. Like, can we salvage anything from it?
Yep. So we are salvaging anything that can be salvaged from it right now. And then once everything that can be taken off is off, the insurer is going to take it and pick it up and take it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor Larry Pinch.
Thank you. Through your chair to Director Rochelle. That's only the cost of replacing the vehicle itself, right? Was there any equipment loss?
It's just a cost to replace what was there. So I think most of the equipment can be moved over from what I hear. Lights, there might be a few lights that might have to be replaced just based on how it landed. But a lot of the lights can be salvaged, the horns, a lot of those things can come off. And based on what the chief has said, we might even be able to salvage the cap on the back, but they're just working at getting everything off of it right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
That includes, sorry, my brain expected you to read my mind.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I was thinking more like the compartments. I don't know what they carried for like fire equipment outside of like the structural equipment required for that, but that was salvageable. So we're not looking at.
So based on what the insurance gave us back through your worship, it's for the replacement of the truck and then the fitting that truck to become a fire apparatus, because there's special things that go into a transforming just a regular truck into a fire apparatus. So those are the only two things that they're reimbursing us for. So everything else on the truck is able to come off.
Perfect. Thank you.
Further questions, council? Seeing no lights. All right. We do have a recommendation up there. Somebody wishes to do that, we can take it now. Councilor William Pinch.
That council approve a contingency of $25,000 for the fire apparatus replacement for Brooklyn Fire Station, utilizing the insurance proceeds with any remaining amount coming from the fire equipment reserve.
Moved by Councilor Larry Pinch, seconded by Councilor McLean. Further discussion? All right, we'll put that through a vote. Motion is passed. Thank you very much, everybody. All right, detailed design award, Falmouth wastewater treatment plant upgrades recommendation report. Manager Bowder.
Thank you, Mayor. So my first report is for the Detailed Design Award for the Falmouth Wastewater Treatment Plant. The picture on the screen shows the location in Falmouth, close to the river. And in March of 2025, Dillon Consulting was commissioned to complete a preliminary design report for upgrades to this facility. It was originally constructed in 1975. And the primary objective of the study was to identify required improvements to accommodate projected increases in influent flows and to ensure compliance with the 2022 Atlantic Canada Wastewater System Guidelines. In terms of the study results, prior to completing the study, it was expected that significant capacity expansion would be required. So we originally thought it would need a second oxidation ditch and replacement of the existing clarifier. And those costs were anticipated to be in the $3 million range. However, a detailed review of the current influent flow data and historical effluent performance has confirmed that the existing facility has sufficient capacity to accommodate both current demands and projected future growth. So that's a good news story. And as a result, the project focus has shifted from expansion to targeted asset renewal and operational improvements. And this will reduce the estimated construction cost to about half at $1.5 million. The report outlines some of the recommendations. One of them is to upgrade the SCADA supervisory control and data acquisition system to integrate with the system that we use in all of our other facilities. So that will improve system monitoring, operational control, and data recording. And some of these items that are in the recommendations are equipment that's nearing the end of its useful life as well. Another recommendation is to upgrade the clarifier cover to improve reliability during winter operations. That will also be important for things like odor control, temperature stability, and process performance. A third one is upgrading the dewatering system and the sludge transfer pumps to increase efficiency and reliability. And then a final general recommendation is to install maintenance pathways to improve access between the equipment and buildings and support ongoing operations. On March 27th of this year, just a few weeks ago, the municipality received a proposal from Dillon for the completion of the detailed design and tender phase engineering services. And Dillon has a proposed fee of $165,640 plus HST, with hourly rates consistent with their existing standing offer with West Hants. Based on the estimated construction cost, this would represent approximately 11% of the construction cost, and that's within the expected range for a project of this nature. It's a little more complicated than a linear system like pipes in the ground. There's a lot of equipment and it has to be integrated with the existing system. So we looked at that, and the costs are what we would expect. The report also outlines the scope of work in quite a bit of detail, but at a high level, it would be topographical survey of the existing infrastructure. It would involve confirmation and refinement of the treatment process selection. So there are recommendations in the preliminary design, and this would build on it to get it to 100% design. It would include the preparation of engineering designs across all of the disciplines. So there's civil, structural, mechanical, electrical, and controls involved with this project. And then there's just things like the detailed design documents, tender drawings, specifications, cost estimates, approvals, and answering contractor questions during the tendering period. Staff do recommend that the detailed design and tender phase engineering services be sole source to Dillon. They have extensive technical knowledge of the facility, and they have been responsible for all major engineering phases of the project to date. So that includes the phase 1 upgrade in 2009, which was the control building and grinder system. It includes the phase 2 upgrade, which followed the year after that, and that was the blower building, UV system, and new clarifier. And of course, they completed the preliminary design last fiscal year. Engaging a new consultant at this stage would result in duplication of effort, increased costs, and added project risk due to the need for knowledge transfer and refamiliarization with existing infrastructure and prior design decisions. And the report does outline that the recommendation is consistent with our procurement policy. There's specific items in the procurement policy that allow for compatibility with existing products and suppliers. So just jumping into the financial implications, the tender pricing came in at $165,000. We do recommend a 15% contingency, and that would bring the total, including the non-recoverable tax, to just under $200,000. And within the budget, we have $250,000. So there's some buffer room there. So 2 recommendations. One is for the main contract award to Dillon, and then the second one pertains to the engineering contingency.
Thank you, Project Engineer Boder. Questions, Council? Councillor John Smith.
Yep. Thank you, Your Worship. So, yeah, that's a good news story. Just curious, how long is this projected to last, this phase? Will it take us into the next decade or 2 decades or?
Yes, so through the chair, that's a good question. It definitely represents like a midlife retrofit of the facility. So I would anticipate more than 10 years, probably 15 to 25 years. And if Falmouth sees tremendous growth, then there could be a necessity for another phase of expansion.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Further questions, Council? All right, Councillor Ivey.
Yeah, just to follow up on through you, Mayor Zabian, to Project Engineer Boder. Just to your last comment that if should Falmouth see significant growth take place, do you anticipate a growth number like that would be sufficient to affordably move us into that extra phase? Like, is it that kind of growth that would cover the cost of us having to expand this further?
So Dylan did look at the long-term growth projections.
Yeah.
And I don't want to misquote, but I believe they were conservative in their estimates, and they projected that over 25 years. And so within that time frame, the existing facility should be sufficient. But again, there could be higher than expected growth. We don't know. And so in the future, when the current equipment reaches its capacity, there will be a need for an expansion at that point in time.
So your 10 to 15 year guesstimate, you're quite comfortable with that?
Yes.
That's great. Thank you, Tom.
Further questions, council? All right, thank you, project engineer Bowder. We do have a recommendation or two on the screen there, council. We have Councillor Bonnie Smith.
It is recommended that council approve the award of the detailed engineering design, Falmouth wastewater treatment plant upgrades to Dillon Consulting Limited for the price of $165,640 before applicable taxes.
Moved by Councillor Bonnie Smith. Seconded by Councillor John Smith. For the discussion. All right, we'll put that for a vote. Motion is passed. Thank you very much. We have a second one. If we can put that back up on the screen there, Clerk Snare. All right, you have it in front of you?
Mhm.
Yep, sure. Councillor Bonnie Smith.
It is recommended that council approve an engineering contingency amount of $24,846 before applicable taxes.
Moved by Councillor Bonnie Smith. Seconder.
Seconded.
Councillor John Smith. Discussion. All right, we'll put that to a vote. Motion is passed. Thank you very much, everybody. All right, RFP award, Avon Street Renewal, Hansport Engineering Services Recommendation Report. Back to you, Project Engineer Bowder.
There it is. Okay, so just jumping right in. In March of this year, the Public Works Department issued an RFP for engineering services from pre-qualified consultants, and it's for design work to prepare tender specs, drawings, and construction admin services for the renewal of Avon Street in Hansport. So this project was included in the capital budget in recent budget deliberations. It's included in the 5-year capital plan as a priority for replacement of the sewer, water infrastructure, and street renewal. It would include sidewalks. This determination was based on the age and condition of the underground services and street surface conditions. Also, the existing water line along Avon Street is undersized, and the street currently does not have a stormwater system. And at least one property has catch basins that are tied into the sanitary sewer, which I guess unofficially makes it a combined system. The total length of the project is approximately 520 meters, and the existing underground infrastructure includes 200 millimeter concrete sanitary sewer. It was installed in 1948, as was the water line. And the water line consists of two sizes, 150 millimeter and 100 millimeter. So 4-inch, definitely undersized for fire flow capacity. So the current capital budget for this fiscal year includes a budgeted amount of $115,000 plus tax, and that's for the design phase services. And the construction phase for this project is currently included in year 2 of the 5-year capital plan. So if everything goes forward, that would be the summer of 2027. And if this design would be awarded, the design work would carry on over the summer and fall, and we would anticipate going to tender probably in the late fall or winter. So just another picture of the project location here. In terms of the discussion, we received 4 submissions for the engineering services, and the proposals were scored by engineering staff based on the following evaluation criteria. So 70 points total for technical score and 30 points for cost score. And the table on the screen shows the 4 vendors. The highest score was EXP Services, and they scored 93. Design Point was 92, and they had a higher cost. And then the other 2 vendors scored 88. So as I mentioned, EXP had the highest score, and they have significant experience with similar projects, not just in Atlantic Canada, but also within West Hants. They were the design consultant for the nearby Riverview Road Renewal Project, and they also recently developed a model of the Hansport water system. So that would definitely be relevant for this project as well. Their submission met all the RFP requirements, and they are therefore being recommended to council for award of the project. In terms of financial implications, the costs can be broken out into the design and tendering services, which was 50,380, and then the engineering project management services during construction account for $40,740. So as the last project, this one also came in under budget, which is good news. We are recommending an engineering contingency of 25,000, which is a little bit higher than the normal percentage. And that's because of uncertainty around the stormwater routing. So the project may require negotiations with private landowners for stormwater easements. And that would also involve additional design work. And that will be the case if the existing stormwater system along Tannery Road is deemed to be at capacity. And we feel that may very well be the case. It's only an 8-inch line. It seems like in the past, smaller municipal units often undersized the stormwater infrastructure. And that's why we're recommending this slightly higher than normal contingency. And the fact that the project is under budget would allow for that flexibility. So in this case, we have 3 recommendations. The first one is for the engineering, design, and tendering services. The second one is a pre-approval for the engineering services during construction. And that one is conditional upon inclusion of the project in next year's capital budget and also approval of the construction contract. And then the last one is related to the contingency amount.
Thank you very much. Questions, council? To project engineer Boder. Councilor Ivey.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one question through you to project engineer Boder on the contingency at 25,000. You mentioned 2 references there. One is additional work with the consulting firm, but also the easements that may be necessary for stormwater. Is that to say that 25,000 would cover both? That if there was money required for the easements, that should take care of both those points that you made?
Yes, through the chair, it would. So the engineering part would be for EXP, and then we would have to engage a surveyor, and also our solicitor would help with the easement agreement itself.
So even though we see this as almost like a 25% contingency, it's not 25% contingency for the engineering work per se. It's split between to have it as project available.
That's correct. And we felt that total kind of lump sum or flat fee would cover all of what we need.
Great, thank you.
So really, it could have been added as part of the cost of the project rather than the engineering itself. But so either way, but
yeah.
Councillor John Smith.
Thank you, Your Worship. So a question around the easements. When the capital work is started, will the easements cost any extra for the capital work?
So through the chair, we would, if easements are required, we would like to negotiate those before we go to tender on the capital work. And it's a little bit the luck of the draw. Some residents are willing to work with us and provide easements free of charge. But my experience in the last 10 years or more is that more often residents will ask for some compensation for easements now.
Very good. Thank you.
Any further questions, council? All right, we do have a series of 3 recommendations on the screen. We can take them now and have some discussion and debate on them. Councillor Whedon.
It is recommended that council approve the award of the Avon Street Renewal, Hansport, Engineering Design and Tendering Services to EXP Services Incorporated for the price of $50,380 before applicable taxes.
Moved by Councillor Whedon,
Second.
seconded by Councillor Ivy. Discussion, council. No lights. All right, we'll put that to a vote. Motion is passed. Thank you very much. Councillor Whedon.
Recommended that council pre-approve the award of the Avon Street Renewal Hansport Engineering Project Management Services to EXP Services, Inc. for the price of $40,740 before applicable taxes, conditional upon inclusion of the project in the 2027-2028 capital budget and approval of the construction contract.
Moved by Councillor Whedon. Seconder.
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Ivy. Discussion. Councillor Leary Pinch.
Thank you. Yeah, I suppose I should have asked this maybe. I'm just curious as to why we require a motion for pre-approval when this is linked to like the actual construction, which hasn't gone to tender yet. The intent, I guess, of a motion to, because it would just come back again, will it not, as a motion in the future with the tender?
CEO.
So we haven't talked about sole sourcing here. That was the previous one. So I think probably you would expect to hear that in the future. If they're designing it, then the project management would go in alignment with that. That's the rationalization, manager
Yeah.
better. Yeah.
The RFP included both in scope of work, so
Yeah.
that's why it was included this way.
So it wouldn't come back here from a procurement point of view, so long as you approved it in the capital budget. This is essentially the procurement authorization, conditional on budget approval.
Further questions? All right, we'll put that to a vote. Motion is passed. Thank you very much. Councillor Whedon.
Recommended that council approve an engineering contingency amount of $25,000 before applicable taxes.
Moved by Councillor Whedon, seconded by Councillor Ivy. Discussion. All right, we'll put that to a vote. Motion's passed. Thank you very much, everybody. All right, next on correspondence. There's none as of the 24th of April, no requests, and the council term correspondence sent of as April 24th, there's none on there. So we do have 4 in-camera items this evening, council, 2026, March 24th, council
Aidan.
in-camera. Sorry, yep,
We're skipping the correspondence.
nothing on the agenda there.
Yeah, there's a letter. Item 16A.
Oh,
It's
hold
okay.
on. That's on my copy here, but that's all right.
It's okay. It's not, I don't look to talk about it unless. we
If
want
there's
to-
discussion on that item, we'll take it now.
Well,
It's just, I think it's changes in the framework of the MGA.
It is,
as
and I just-
pertains to council relationship with CAO, et cetera, et
Yeah.
cetera. So but is there,
we got to cut. No, I just, think it skipped, it said
Oh,
no
yeah.
correspondence, but there
Yeah.
was, I just.
so we're good? All right. All right, so in camera, there's four council in camera minutes from March 24th, land matter MGA 22-2A, and personnel 22-2C, and personnel again 22-2C. If council wishes to go in camera, we can take that now. A motion to go in camera. Moved by Councillor Leary Pinch. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Paul Whedon. We'll do a show of hands on that one. All those in favor signify by hands up. Opposed, motion's passed unanimous. So those at home, it is 7:14 p.m., April 28th. I'm not sure if we will come back into the regular setting after in camera, depending on what goes on in there. But if not, have a good evening and enjoy it.